Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on this Monday night. We're happy to have you in for another episode of the Prime Time program. You're probably not happy your football team's bad, but that's okay. We're going to talk about what Brian Callahan had to say, how there are ways, if there are any ways, to salvage this season, and basically defining what salvaging the season means now that they're 1-4. We have Bert back from Baltimore, is where the game was this weekend. I don't know if the Commanders game was in Baltimore or in I guess it would have been in Maryland either way, Landover or Baltimore. Bert says it was in Baltimore. The Ravens getting a win over the Commanders. Bert was in attendance to witness Derrick Henry continue to out offense the Titans single-handedly in the Baltimore backfield. But that's not what we're here to talk about tonight. We are here to talk about, who do you blame? It's a top to bottom organizational failure. There is blame to go around across the board. But if you had to pick a source of all your ills, we're going to talk about whom you might pin that on. Oh my God, I just turned on the television and Todd Downing's on my screen. Titans legend. Watch the Jets put up 35 points tonight in a win against the Bills. That would be laugh out loud funny, but knowing the Jets and knowing Todd Downing, I don't know if that's going to be possible. It is going to be a bit of a hate watch tonight for Titans fans, but that's basically what every NFL Sunday has become with your favorite football team, because you've been hate watching them as well, it seems. So what can be done to save the season? Who do you blame in the meantime? And Bert at the end of the show. We're looking forward to it. We always appreciate when you invite more of your pals to come hang out with us. In fact, I'm going to do what I always ask you to do. I'm going to share this show around right now. If you're hanging out with us on Twitter, please retweet the show in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. You can get it done that way. If you're on Facebook Live, please share. Share now to public. That's in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. YouTube and Twitch, like the video, subscribe to the channel, tell a friend to do the same while you're here. We'd appreciate you for it. Because when it comes to the blame game, I feel like everybody likes the blame game, especially sports fans. No matter if your team wins, no matter if your team loses, there's always somebody to blame for something that went wrong. So why don't we play a little blame game tonight? Yuri Barkin says, I think I said after the Packers game, the Titans have an organizational problem. Perhaps you did. Perhaps you knew things. Perhaps you could foresee the future. But I don't know that anybody, even the most pessimistic of Titans fans or even the most pessimistic of media, Vegas seemed to have your number. Your number was 6.5 this offseason for their season win total. And most of you, including myself, thought that was easy money. But, it's like for those of you that watch Game of Thrones, you sweet summer child, how little you know nothing, Jon Snow, all of these things. And yet the Titans are here at 1-4, looking at Buffalo on the road and Detroit on the road, and trying to find ways to avoid going 0-6 1-6 over the course of the next couple of weeks. B Friend says, hey Buck, which concert would you rather see, Post Malone or Coldplay? For sure Coldplay, because I'm scared if I went to a Post Malone concert right now, he'd just play songs off his country album. And I mean, it's not it's not terrible, but I'm not really there for a Post Malone. That'd be like going to see Beyonce and all she plays is Cowboy Carter, which Cowboy Carter is excellent, but I don't, I want some of the old stuff too. I want White Iverson. I want the original Post Malone, and I don't know that I'm getting that at this point. But we're not here to talk about concerts either. We're here to talk about football, so let's get to it. Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on this Monday night, October the 14th. We're happy to have you in. I'm your host, Buck Rising. If you're new to the show, thanks for hanging out. If you're new to the show at 1-4, what the hell are you doing here? Did you get lost on your way in? That's okay. That's fine. We'll take you anyway. All are welcome for the next 30 to 45 minutes of therapy that we are going to provide to you. Proud as always to be presented to you by Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. Also made possible by Zen Sports. Promo code ATOZTN gets you in on all the action. And TrueMath Fitness in the Gulch, where your first workout is free as a Middle Tennessee resident. No workout ever recycled or repeated at TrueMathFitness.com. Okay, with everything that's going on right now, there's a lot of blame to be assigned. So we did a bit of the blame game last night, and we're going to take a look from a larger view on these things about where the root of the failure resides. Because for all the best laid plans and all the different things that they wanted to accomplish this season, they have fallen spectacularly short. And in fact, when you talk about, for example, how different the vibes are on October the 14th versus, let's say, on August the 14th, it is a night and day difference between what Titans fans were talking about and what Titans fans were excited to see. Hell, you had me excited this offseason to watch Titans football because I thought, okay, you know what? They're checking a lot of the right boxes. Surely, for the amount of investment that's been made in this roster, it can't be as shitty as it's been the last couple of years. But much like I thought that your left tackle play couldn't get worse after Dennis Daly, and then we were greeted with Andre Dillard, a year of Andre Dillard, and how spectacularly awful and worse that was. You move on from Mike Vrabel thinking that you're going to revolutionize the offensive game, and your offense is worse than when Mike Vrabel was here at any point in the last 2 years. Todd Downing, who orchestrated an offense that scored 17.5 points per game, would be outscoring you because you are averaging, well, the 31 does skew it in there, but as an offense, you are not averaging very many points at all. In fact, they are still languishing at 2 touchdowns per game. It's one of the worst scoring offenses in football. And so when you talk about the root of the organizational failure, because make no mistake, this is an organizational failure. This is something that you have to take a look at from a 1,000-foot view. So now that you've had 24 hours to get over it and stew and be miserable and get all your unhinged opinions and takes off of your chest, now it's time to really take a look at where the fault lies. So your Two Rivers Ford take tonight is going to be this. What has been the Titans' biggest failure this season? Where is the biggest failure of the year? Now, I'm not saying an individual. I'm talking about from a theme. So maybe it's your offseason plan. So what I mean from your offseason plan is, okay, we're going to let Mike Vrabel go. Mike Vrabel has, it's not good enough to win more games than you lose, which was part of Amy Adams' Strunk press release. Wouldn't you like to win more games than you lose right now when you look like one of the worst teams? Well, I mean, not look, you are one of the worst teams in football. Wouldn't it be nice to win more games than you lose? And I understand, you felt like you'd hit your ceiling, and I'm not saying to relitigate the Vrabel thing, but maybe it was getting rid of Mike Vrabel. Was that an organizational failure? Is that the biggest failure of the offseason? I don't know. That's for you to determine. Was moving on from Derrick Henry the biggest failure of the offseason? Derrick Henry looks, he is a leading MVP candidate. He has more rushing yards than Will Levis has passing yards. That should never happen under no circumstances. It is an embarrassment. He is averaging more yards per rush than Will Levis is averaging yards per attempt. Hideous. Maybe that's your biggest failure of the offseason. Maybe it's all the different pieces and parts that were acquired. Maybe it's the free agency haul. Is the free agency haul the biggest failure of the offseason? You can talk about the quarterback decision-making, whether it's starting Will Levis, signing Mason Rudolph, trading Malik Willis. Quarterback decisions have been in question this year. You can assign the failure anywhere that you want to assign the failure, but we're talking about themes less than we are about individual people. Though, if you want to assign individual people as the biggest failure of the season so far, you are entitled to do that as well. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. It's your Two Rivers Ford take. As always, it's made possible by Two Rivers Ford. It is Ford Truck Central at Two Rivers Ford. Whether you are shopping for a new truck for you or for your business, Two Rivers Ford has all manner of great options. Their pricing is excellent. Their financing is better. Go to Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com for more information. Bills are taking the field right now. Josh Allen coming off one of his worst performances of the season and getting ready for, on a short week, the Titans at home. Bills on the road at the Jets tonight. 3-0 Jets is the score right now. Aaron Rodgers seemed to be frustrated at the end of that drive that they settled for a field goal. Some missed opportunities there. But we're focused on the Titans right now. What has been the Titans' biggest failure of the offseason so far? Let's see. Yuri just says, blanket statement, the offense. Facts. Pure and obvious facts. It doesn't have to just be the quarterback. It doesn't have to be Calvin Ridley. Doesn't have to be Brian Callahan. All of it. The offense, hideous, garbage, trash, worse than that. It is a laughingstock. It is literally being mocked this morning on First Take with Calvin Ridley expressing some frustrations in the locker room, that making the rounds on all the talk shows, and Stephen A. Smith pointing pointing fingers at Brian Callahan and Will Levis and saying, no wonder he's pissed. You don't get the job done. It's on you. And you know what? He's right. Justice for Calvin Ridley. Team Calvin Ridley over here. Calvin Ridley was 100% accurate in what he's saying. You cannot wait until the fourth quarter to shove 5 targets his way after you only give him 3 in the first 3 quarters of the game. It's completely and totally ridiculous. It looks like there's some squabbling on the sideline. I thought that ball came loose. But Bills maintain possession. Biggest failure so far on the season. Jay Nelson says, biggest problem is that the plan was stupid. Fire Mike 2 years ago if you want. Go in that direction. Why half-ass last year, then fire him? Reactionary, dumb, embarrassing, butt of the joke. Well, I mean, but Mike, Mike wasn't going to get, they just gave him an extension. Like, that's what made the Robinsons. He must have really pissed off Amy Adams Strunk for him to get fired at, it was like 6 months, 8 months after he signed a multi-year extension. I think it was a 3 or 4 year extension. They both did at the same time, Mike Vrabel and John Robinson. So she had to be really pissed at J-Rob. And, A.J. Brown, the curse of A.J. Brown lives on. You haven't been right. You haven't been right since the Bengals game, but you also haven't been right since you traded A.J. away. And I guess one of those came before the other. The Bengals game first and the A.J. trade. So there's a million different things that are going on with this organization. I don't agree with the idea of firing Mike Vrabel 2 years ago. There was no reason to fire Mike. Now, Mike, is a very strong personality. They didn't feel like they could control him. They got somebody who's infinitely more malleable to the situation, at least from a personality standpoint, in Brian Callahan. But the question is he a good enough coach? You don't have to be a nice guy. And listen, Vrabel is fine, but Vrabel's a football coach. Like, Vrabel didn't give a shit. Here's the thing and whether you respect it or not, because I know a lot of you guys accuse me of being in the tank for Mike. And, I will tell you, I believe Mike Vrabel to be a good football coach. I did not necessarily agree with the firing at the time. I was surprised by it until basically I'm going to take my jacket off. I'm starting to sweat because this football team gives me a heat stroke, basically. I do respect Mike Vrabel's coaching acumen. I think that they're suffering right now for not having it. I think they're a poor situational football team. I think I expressed that concern to you last night when talking about this. And again, winning more games than losing more games is not the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is to reach a Super Bowl. And I do think that at a certain point, change can be a good thing, even if one person is, a good coach, or even if you have a good coach, like things run its course. Andy Reid in Philadelphia. And I know, Andy went to a Super Bowl and Mike made it to the AFC Championship, but grass isn't always greener, basically. And maybe Callahan gets better. This is his first time doing this. You're going to allow him a bit more grace. He had a much heavier lift than Vrabel did coming in at the time. Vrabel had a ready-made thing and needed to change at the quarterback position to make it go, which is not an easy change to make, but they made it and they saw the dividends of that. And with everything that happened in the interim, they got worse over time. And he started to wear on his bosses, and you can't have that kind of personality in a corporate type environment, and enough corporate type of suits were pissed off by Mike Vrabel. And they said, you know what, we'll show you the door. And I get that. You can't big time your boss. Like, that's, in many different elements. Like when you have that, when you don't have the control in the employer-employee relationship, then yeah, you probably need to make a change and make a situation that you think is better for your organization. But again, they are not better for it right now. And, you can only analyze the results in front of you. Will they be better in the long term? I don't know. Darren Ossie says, when Vrabel left, the culture left. It's not even about the culture, because I do think that the culture, had gotten a bit stale under Mike. I do think there's something to that. But what left was the identity. I don't know who the Tennessee Titans are anymore. I have no idea what this football team is. They run the football well. Tony Pollard's an ass kicker. But they're not like the best rushing football. They're not the best rushing team in the sport. They just feel like, and I was texting a couple of people around the league about this today. And in particular, one quarterback coach about this today. I try to ask people that are smarter than me, who coach these things, who teach these things, who preach these things, who eat, sleep, and breathe these things, just to make sure that I'm not completely full of shit at what I'm looking at, because I get stuff wrong. I'm not a trained football. I'm a trained football watcher, but I'm not a trained football analyst. Those two things are different. And I was texting a quarterback coach in the league today about this, and I said, am I seeing things, or are they just wretched on offense? And I'll read to you the exact explanation that I got. He said, find an identity. Got to have a few things you believe in and work off them. Each week, it feels like they're just randomly trying something different. I couldn't think of a better way. And, to have somebody smarter than me about specifically that position makes me feel, okay, I'm not taking crazy pills. I'm not imagining what I'm seeing. I'm not just manifesting things in my head or projecting things in my head based on the untrained eye. No, that's something that smart people are also seeing too, that they're just trying a bunch of shit. And it's, they have not had relative levels of success with any of it besides running the football. So they're a running football team in the immediate, but they're not the best running football team. They used to be with Derrick Henry, but they don't have Derrick Henry anymore. And that's no slight against Tony Pollard. It's just, he's not Derrick Henry. And you see what Derrick Henry can still do that makes him different and special at 30 years old that the rest of the league cannot. So with all of this being said, Mr. Cable says Cosell will confirm all of this on the install. But yeah, I mean, Greg, but here's the thing, guys, like you're running out of time. I'm running out of, I'm not going to keep talking about the Titans on the install. You know what I'm saying? Like they're 1-4. I'm not going to waste Greg's time with that. Maybe when we spin back up to draft stuff, maybe if they win a game and they're tactically brilliant, then it's worth breaking down. But I mean, I've got a bunch of different stuff on the docket this week for Greg when we tape on Wednesday, and I can't say that much of it involves the Tennessee Titans. Like, we will mention the game, we will touch briefly on the game, but I'm not going to spend the bulk of the podcast with the executive director of NFL Films talking about 1-4 football. I'm not going to do that. So, yeah, I mean, if you want the Titans to make the rundown on the install, that's not a Titan show. That's an NFL show. So I just happen to be based here in Tennessee and am a Titans reporter, so we have particular access to that team. But you can keep your access at 1-4. I'm all good on that at this point. Well, I shouldn't say that, because of course that is how I do my job, and I understand that teams go through slumps, and plenty of reporters before me have covered losing football teams, but it's just, I'm not going to waste additional breath on it anyway. So with everything that's happening with the Titans, because this is a Titan-centric show, you can always get my Titans thoughts here, no matter how bad they are, because that's what we talk about. Who is, or what is, the biggest failure of the season so far? The biggest failure of the season so far is that we are 6 weeks in, and the coach doesn't trust the quarterback, but the coach won't let the quarterback play more freely. So you have an offense that's constipated, a quarterback who's best as a gunslinger, and as Lucas Panzica on the radio show described it today, I thought pretty aptly, an endless cycle of suffering that's going on, because you need to find out more about the quarterback, is how Lucas put it, and then all of a sudden you don't trust the quarterback again. But you need to figure out whether the quarterback is going to be your future or even good enough to start the rest of the season, but you don't trust the quarterback again. So like all of this stuff is an endless cycle of suffering, and that is the thing for Brian Callahan that is absolutely infuriating when you listen to this man talk about what this football team is right now.
Play clock seems to wind down occasionally, at least on Will. Is that the play coming in? Are you?
Yeah, I look at all that stuff. Some of it's the I try to get the plays in as fast as possible. Some of it's line of scrimmage mechanics that maybe we have a 2 plays called, or we have a protection adjustment we have to make, or Will's using his cadence to try to see if he can uncover a pressure or whatever that is. So, yeah, I mean, I can do a better job of probably getting the play in even faster, and we got to do a better job coming out of the huddle and getting set and getting lined up faster too. I think there's all elements of it could be better in certain instances. I know it's not been killer. It's not like we're getting delayed game penalties left and right, but one of the delays I took on purpose because we had something go sideways. But outside of that, I mean, yeah, there's a couple of times that the clock runs down on us, but especially on third down, that's relatively normal, across the league. And there's probably ways I can get better too.
When you think back on the rookie Will Levis that you watched coming in as a new coach, the guy you signed up to play with, do you see progress in second year Will Levis so far?
Yeah, I think there's things that he's gotten better at. And I think there's things that he's going to continue to get better at, and there's things about what he did last year. It's just different circumstance, different everything. So it's hard for me to make comparisons to what he did last year to what he did this year. I just know the things that I thought he needed to improve in. There's some things that he has done a lot better, and then there's things that he needs to continue to do better. So, it's comparing and contrasting last year and this year. Just the circumstances are totally different. Everything's different. So it's hard for me to make any real comparisons to that. But I do think that he's done some things better. He's been the ball comes out quick right now, which is good. We need it to. And I know he hasn't had some of those flash plays that came up last year, but that's not where we're at right now.
That answer, he had a couple answers today that just didn't land well with me. That one didn't love because when he's talking about, well, everything's different. Yeah, the quarterback was playing better last year. What happened? Simple as that. Why, if there are things that the quarterback was doing well last year that he can continue to do well, but it's different from what you're used to coaching, make the adjustment. Will Levis is going to get a lot of heat. Individual players, quarterbacks get a lot of heat. By the way, heat deserved. Will Levis, not good enough yesterday. Not even close. Not even close. But he's not the root of the problem based on what we're seeing here. What we're seeing here is a coach and a coaching staff, not just Callahan, but Nick Holtz, Bo Hardigree, across the board. Defense looks pretty solid, although Snead had a terrible day yesterday too. They were brought in here to figure out how to make the Titans more competitive in the modern NFL. Things have gotten worse since the whole approach to modernize. And while I think there is some stuff that I know there is some stuff that Will Levis could do better, significantly better. I'm also not letting the coaching staff off the hook for making life harder on the quarterback if he's better at one thing and you're choosing to do things completely opposite of what he's capable or what you think he can do. It's nonsense. It's nonsense to me that Will Levis isn't a victim, but he's definitely not the root of your issues. And I'm not saying the coaching staff is either. I'm just saying this is a multi-layered problem, and that Will Levis wasn't a perfect prospect or anything like that. But what he showed on tape was the ability to elevate his football team last year, and that is completely dissipated. And they've changed the way that the quarterback plays. And now the quarterback no longer looks like the player that made him a day 2 draft pick, but still a high day 2 draft pick. Nonsense. Complete and total nonsense. The other part, the other response to a question that I hated today was him actively talking about going into that game with a conservative approach. If you acknowledge, and I made this analogy on the radio show today, but if you go about your job afraid, whether you're a plumber or a broadcaster or a football player or a coach or whatever else, right? Whatever you do for a living. If you go in with preconceived notions of fear about how it is that you're going to perform and how it is that you need to do your job, you are immediately limiting yourself. Now, you can't just blindly rush into the breach, right? Every time. You have to have knowledge, you have to have skill, you have to have adequate preparation. It can't just be pure and, complete and total aggression. But anytime you go in with this preconceived fear or constipation or conservatism about how it is that you need to do your job, you've already lost, as far as I'm concerned. You've already lost half the battle. Before a snap is even taken, before a ball is even kicked off, if you go in acknowledging, just let's play to not lose this week. Let's play to not lose. Let's hang on to our ass. Let's get a 17, let's get a 1-score lead and white knuckle our way to victory. Okay, well, what happens when it doesn't go to plan and football's weird and everything blows up in your face and you lose by 3? I hated that answer. I hated that answer. Brian Callahan's first time as a head coach. Will it improve? I have no idea. But right now, results are less than reassuring. A to Z Sports Prime Time is made possible by TrueMath Fitness in the Gulch. They will not let you down when it comes to meeting your fitness goals. They will help you continue to improve incrementally, right? Grow as you go is the line that was supposed to be for the Titans. But unlike the Titans, you will not regress when you trust TrueMath Fitness with your fitness plan. Personal training, group fitness classes, an open gym for you to work out as you please with one of their memberships. TrueMath Fitness is a top-notch facility conveniently located in the middle of the Gulch in downtown Nashville. TrueMathFitness.com for your first workout free as a Middle Tennessee resident. Just tell them A to Z Sports sent you. Okay, so with everything that's going on, that's the biggest failure with the Titans right now. Now, we're going to have a conversation tomorrow about Ran Carthon and the front office. And it's not just Ran, right? There's plenty of people but Ran is the face of the front office, just as Callahan is the face of the Titans offense right now. Denard Wilson didn't get a lot of shit from us because Denard Wilson's group, for the most part, other than L'Jarius Sneed yesterday, basically did their job. Is that a touchdown, Jets? No, incomplete pass. Todd Downing we're trying to work some magic in the red zone with the New York Jets. Almost had a touchdown there, but it did not look like Garrett Wilson got both feet in. 1, 2. Oh, I think that's a touchdown, sir. We will see upon review. But there's a lot more failures to be had. But the biggest organizational failure thus far is what has happened with this offense and what has happened with the quarterback. He looks worse. I don't know who else. I mean, you can blame him if you want to, but as far as I know, he looked perfectly capable at the NFL level not 6 months ago. And all of a sudden, they've changed everything about him, and now he can't play quarterback anymore. It's crazy. Shrike says, I don't know, Buck, did you hate that answer? I couldn't tell. Well, I just wanted to make sure that you understood how much I hate that answer because I hate it a lot. I really, really do. Okay, somebody said fire Todd Downing. Hashtag fire Todd Downing. Oops, sorry, I have it. It's pretty funny. So, can anything be done to salvage this season? How have your season expectations changed since the Titans fell to 1-4 yesterday, an organizational embarrassment at the hand of the Indianapolis Colts? Let me know on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch in the comment section where you think there might be savable moments, salvageable moments this season. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. I think I just mentioned that. You let us know in the comment section. I'll remind you that the Primetime program is made possible by the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage. Go to GaryAshton.com for your dream address without the stress. Okay, all kinds of different things that you can pull from here. Schedule doesn't get easier, says Darren. Well, let's take a look at the schedule, shall we? Do I still have the schedule somewhere in here, Bert? I think I might have deleted it. Oh, no, there it is. So, schedule. Now that they have looking at the schedule again pisses me off even more. The fact that you had 3 home games in your first 5 games, and you lost 3. You lost all 3. You're winless at home, and that you couldn't beat the high school offense of the Jets. You barely beat you handled it pretty well. I won't do revisionist history on the Dolphins win, but the Dolphins win looks more and more hollow by the day, the more that Tyler Huntley plays. Jets, Packers, Colts, all at home, all winnable. Week 5 bye squandered. So now, week 7 at the Bills, week 8 at Detroit. Those will be 2 games where you are in 2 of the most hostile environments in the NFL. That does not bode well for a quarterback that's tightly wound. I have no idea what that's going to look like. We will see. Week 9 is what's supposed to be your respite. If you are one of the worst teams in football, the Patriots are currently worse, as are the Jags. Both have 5 losses. You only have 4 to date, but it doesn't mean that you should race them to the bottom the way that it feels like you might be doing at this point, because those are the only 3 teams that have a mere 1 win on the season. The schedule, I mean, the Chargers are salty. Minnesota is a good team, obviously. Houston is a problem. Washington is a problem. The only breaks that you have are week 9 and week 14 because the Jags and Patriots are equally terrible. And by the time you play Drake May, who's now starting for the Patriots, who's to say that he doesn't look more like a professional quarterback? So it's a problem at this point. Trey Reed says, you know what, maybe just letting Levis fly. Maybe not coaching scared, not playing scared, just letting him get back to his roots being more natural with it, being more comfortable out there, because he's clearly uncomfortable at this point. Puka Hare says the offensive line improving on schedule takes away pressure excuse for Levis. It sure does. That can be a positive. That can still be something salvageable about the season. If you're putting together a solid offensive line group for whomever is going to play quarterback in the future, good to see the bones of that making progress to this point. Anthony says, no, you can't salvage this season. You know Levis isn't the guy because May not the guy. What is to be salvaged? Well, no, listen, I'm not saying make the playoffs. You're not making the playoffs. God, no. I mean, you're not winning the Super Bowl, but you were never going to win the Super Bowl this year. That's if you convinced yourself that you were a legitimate playoff team and not, hovering around 7 or 8 wins optimistically, right? Vegas had you at 6.5. Then I think you were probably already skewed in your opinion there. And I'm not saying that to drag you after the fact. I'm just saying, you looked at the facts. I saw 7-10 on this roster. I may be wrong. They could be 6-11. They could be worse based on how things are trending right now, because the schedule does not get much easier. But there are still things to be salvaged from this season. Your franchise does not end just because your season is over from a competitive purpose, because your season is not over. And there's still plenty of things on this roster that you have to figure out, and plenty of things on this coaching staff that you have to figure out. So what can be the biggest benefit, the biggest saving grace of this season? Well, there's something to be said about that offensive line group. There's a couple of different things where I think you could look at, okay, do the Titans have something here for the foreseeable future that can be determined? Brian Callahan giving voice to some of those positives moving forward today.
Quickly for Zach, what's the key for you being back on that to keep this thing together?
Yeah.
And moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, we got to. There's no reprieve. You got to come back to work. You got to find ways to get better. Our detail and precision, we can keep improving that. And I think guys understand that we're close. We're not far from being a team capable of winning these games that we've lost. And there's a lot of positive things. Our guys play really hard. There's plenty of things that I can lean on and point out that are really positive. And when you're 1-4, it's the negative obviously gets highlighted, and that's as it should. I get that, but there still is a lot of good things that are going on. There's a lot of good individual performances, guys playing a high level of football for us that are giving us chances to win these games. And so that's it. I mean, that's the message. You got to keep finding ways to get better. We got to find ways to close out a game. We got to find ways to take a 3-point game that's a loss for us and make it a win. And there's plenty of things that we can do to do that. But that to me is the ultimate message. You keep hammering and you keep going through your process and you find ways to get better. And if you got to change some things, you change them. But yeah, there's plenty of positive to me about what we put on tape so far. And there's, again, plenty of things that have led to us being 1-4 and not 3-2 or 3-3 or 4, whatever it is. And that's the message to me is you got to come back to work and you got to get ready to roll and you got to find things to fix what you can fix and control the things you can control from personal, from a coaching level, from a playing level, from a unit, from a position. I don't really know any other way to go about it than that. And, you keep focusing on trying to get better and hopefully that leads to some wins. And you got to get one of these wins to put you over the hump and build some confidence and get some momentum. And we haven't been able to do that enough yet. So that's all it is. That's the only way I know how to do it.
Brian Callahan speaking on how to salvage a bad situation, because the situation is it's bleak. It's dire. I mean, like I said, they're not mathematically eliminated from anything yet, but they're done. You stick a fork in them, they're done. But I do think the offensive line continuing to grow, continuing to progress. J.C. Latham, Peter Skoronski, Lloyd Cushenberry. That's a long-term contract in Cushenberry. You improve on the right side this offseason, I think you really got something. I do think at Leroy Watson, the back-to-back penalties were tough. That's a real killer, but they were able to overcome it, right? They had the 3rd and 19 touchdown with Tony Pollard, an unbelievable play by Tony Pollard in that spot. So you're looking for a new offensive line. Titans didn't allow a sack for the first time in 3 years yesterday. But, it gets glossed over because they lost and quarterback wasn't good enough. It makes it even more egregious that Will Levis in that passing game only had 93 yards. Well protected. Not really under duress. Able to run block well. Offensive line, not a problem yesterday. Sitting NPF, great decision. But honestly, the more that you think about it, the bigger indictment it is on the quarterback. It's not good, but maybe your offensive line might be at some point. They're not good yet, but they might be. So there's all kinds of different things. Jackie Holbert says, Buck, do you get the impression that he knows how to salvage it or improve it at all? Well, I have no idea. This person, for all intents and purposes, just got here, like just started this job. You know, I know we're 6 weeks in the NFL season, and you only get 1 week at a time to, but I have no idea. This is the first time he's been through anything like, no, that's not true. The first time he's been through anything like this was Joe Burrow's rookie season. They were a 4-win team, and Burrow got hurt towards ACL, so they didn't even have Joe Burrow for a season like that. He wasn't the head coach at the time, so he's not burdened with all the responsibility, but he was an offensive coordinator to Zach Taylor, and one of Zach Taylor's best friends, so fair to assume that he was sharing some level of burden. Now, did he learn enough? Does it matter if they don't have Joe Burrow? I have no idea, but we're finding out about Brian Callahan. The season is just as much about finding out about him as a coach, about Rand Carthon as a general manager, as it is about Will Levis, because there's a lot of questions about all three of these gentlemen at this particular point. And, you know, if this thing keeps on this pace, then none of them are going to see the opening of the new stadium in 2027 when it's scheduled to open. At this point, tough scene. Trey Reed says Dan Campbell's first year Lions only coaching Lions only won 3 games. Yeah, this can happen. This is not unprecedented. He does have the worst record of any of the first year head coaches. He is the worst of the first year head coaches in the NFL this year. But the football team was bad. Like, turns out, really, really tough turnaround. It doesn't just all happen overnight, and all the best laid plans don't mean anything because football's weird that way. So I'm not excusing them. I'm just saying you don't know enough to make any determinations about the coach yet, but you're going to start learning more. You're going to learn a lot real fast, whether this person is equipped to handle this job. So with that, we'll welcome in Bert. In case you missed it, before we do that, though, I'll remind you that Zen Sports makes the Primetime Show possible. Use the promo code ATOZTN. Get up to $100 on your no-danger first wager. Terms and conditions do apply. Must be 21 plus and in the state of Tennessee to bet at Zen Sports. Talk to me, Bert.
Hello.
What are you doing?
It's not what I'm doing. It's just what the system's doing.
No, that sounds like a cover-up to me. Are you fearing for your safety?
No.
Are you in hiding?
I thought you would think this is an improvement, a market improvement over my usual appearance.
No, it is a market improvement. I'm just curious as to this. This cannot be a mere coincidence. I'm assuming that you're hiding from Titans fans. You don't want them to see your likeness anymore. You don't want them to see any of the sad backdrop that you have in your office because you fear that they'll hunt you down and find you because you're enjoying how much more fun you're having with Derrick Henry than they are at this point.
You're saying that
you've gone into hiding.
You're saying that Titans fans are green with envy over my running back situation in Baltimore. No, that's fine. Look, I didn't come here to make cheap jokes, but I will make one up front. If Will Levis was a dessert, what dessert would he be, Buck?
Oh, fruitcake.
He would be a turnover. The Jets and the Bills playing today, big game for them because the Jets have to right their ship. The one way they can right their ship, as you've talked about, would be getting Haason Reddick to show up and go to practice and play games for them. Yep. He fired his management, rehired a new management team, and now Adam Schefter thinks that he is projected to play this season.
Somebody made a lot of waves this weekend. Haason Reddick, we saw CAA split ties with him. Saw that he hired Rosenhaus Sports going forward. Drew Rosenhaus. Is there any chance they get a deal done, worked out pretty quickly, or is he potentially on the move?
Well, I think the fact that Haason has hired an agent that quickly tells you that he has some level of interest in coming back to play. Yeah. I think Drew, a new voice, a new perspective, maybe that does something. Maybe he says something to Haason that registers in a different way after all this time. I just think that it changes the dynamics of the equation some. I don't know whether that's going to lead to a deal or a trade or more of the same. But at the very least, I think it does provide, like I said, a different perspective and a boost of hope that maybe both sides can figure out something that should have been figured out long ago. And I think his former agency had been advocating to him for a while to take certain deals, to go in, to get things done, and he didn't.
You think?
And so, that's now a change of voice and a change of perspective, and we go from there.
Hey, what do we got? We got breaking news.
Yeah. Whoa.
No, we just got my NBA fantasy draft on Wednesday night, Pat. Nothing.
Wow. Good luck out there. I would take DiVincenzo. Seems like he's got a little extra sauce this year going in. I think he's going to have.
Shut up, Pat. Not here to talk to you about Dante DiVincenzo. Shut up.
Oh. I wanted the Titans to trade for Haason Reddick when I thought they might beat the Colts, but now I think they should sell parts, and Haason Reddick should no longer be a part of their plans.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you. You can't give up assets when you're going to need all of those draft picks and potentially any more that you can handle in the coming offseason.
What a mess. Is that what you have?
That's what I have.
All right, back to your hiding.
Go back to the green zone.
The green zone. I wish I could send him to the demilitarized zone. That's what zone I'd like to put Bert in. All right, it's going to do it for us tonight. We are keeping an eye on Titans legend Todd Downing. His offense has scored points. Your offense is still searching for points. 10-7 is the lead for the Jets right now, and they are driving at the Bills. They look like they're at the Jets 39-yard line with a 1st and 10. Have a great rest of your evening. Radio show tomorrow. A lot more college football talk because college football is still relevant here locally. We will also talk about whether Rand Carthon is accomplishing any of the goals that he set out to accomplish this past offseason. And, spoiler alert, he's missing a few more boxes than we thought he might have checked this past spring. All right, have a great rest of your evening. Radio show tomorrow, 10 to 1 on 104.5 The Zone. I've said all of this already, so I'm just going to let you go. See you.
Go home! Go home! Go home! You're embarrassing Nashville. Go home!